All right. Well, hello, everyone. Great to see you all trickling back in after the coffee break. We're now going to jump right into it because we have a lot to unpack here. If you didn't see the last session, my name is Nicole Frankenhauser, and I am on WAN-IFRA's Digital Revenue Network team. In this session, we will cover automated journalism, and we have 3 Scandinavian publishers who are currently using the United Robots technology. Cecilia Campbell is Chief Marketing Officer of United Robots in Sweden, and we'll hear from her in a bit, but I would like to personally announce our esteemed panelists who are joining us today from publishers in Scandinavia. First up, we have Ingeborg Volan, the editor for publishing strategy and visual journalism at Dagens Næringsliv in Norway. We also have Jan Stein Vold, project lead of Bergens Tidende, which is also Bergens Times, by the way. I just got the translation. And he's also based in Norway. And we have Peter Sigfridsson, head of production development at Gota Media in Sweden. So now, Cecilia, we look forward to hearing how robots can help us save valuable reporting time. So why don't you take it away now?
Thank you, Nicole, and thanks for giving us a chance to talk about automated journalism here today. It's great to see that there's so much interest in this topic and in meeting our robot panel. I'll just briefly introduce myself. I'm Cecilia Campbell, and I work for United Robots in Sweden. And we've been producing automated news for media companies in Scandinavia, Europe, and North America for over 5 years now. We build and operate the robots, and we then deliver the content they generate to news publishers as a service. So to all intents and purposes, our robots work as reporters in the newsroom, though we develop and manage them. And I'm not going to talk more about United Robots right now because we only have 30 minutes and we want to hear from our friends on the panel, of course. So if you're curious about our company, please drop by our booth here at DME to learn more about us, or join me for the demo session tomorrow at 11 o'clock. So as I mentioned, we're a Swedish company and many of our publisher partners are in Scandinavia. So I'm really thrilled that these 3 people have joined us today to talk about why they believe in content automation. We want this to be an interactive session. So if you have a question, please don't sit on it because we might not have time for a Q&A at the end. We'll try and do the questions as we go along during the session. So just put it in the chat function and Nicole will make sure I get it. So let's start with an introduction round. And guys, I'll let you introduce yourselves and your company and talk a little bit about why you're investing in content automation. Peter, would you like to start?
Sure. Thank you, Cecilia. As Nicole said in the presentation, I work as head of production development at Gota Media in the south part of Sweden. And Gota Media is a news group that is very much focused on the local news, very local news. So we have a lot of local offices, but even so, there are white spots on our map. There are matters that are happening in these areas where we can't be. We do have a lot of reporters out there, but we can't be everywhere. So the robot helps us to covering these places and give us news about real estate and sports and new businesses and traffic incidents and so on. So that's why we started out. And my role was to implement this both in tech and in the newsrooms and of course as a part of the content that we provide to our customers.
All right, thank you. Ingeborg?
Hi everyone, my name is Ingeborg Volan and I'm in charge of publishing strategy and visual journalism at the Norwegian Business Daily, which is the translation for Dagens Næringsliv. And we are sort of a Norwegian take on the Financial Times. So for anyone who wonders what kind of a newspaper business we are. And we are just starting to dip our toes into what I like to call content automation. There's a lot of times you speak about robot journalism, and I find that it sets the expectations sort of on the wrong scale, at least for journalists. I'm not sure it might be the problem for the users out there. But content automation, we are just starting, so I won't be going into details about the projects we have in the works because they are not live yet. But as I work at the Norwegian Business Daily and for a publishing group that focuses mainly on business niche titles as well as this broader financial paper, you might not be too surprised that it has something to do with business and data.
Absolutely. All right, Stian.
Yes, my name is Stian Vold. I'm a project lead in Bergens Tidende, a regional media house in the Schibsted system. So I've been working with online journalism for, well, 25 years actually, which makes it almost from the very beginning, I guess. And until recently, I was the news editor in Bergens Tidende, and I have a lot of different editorial roles in the organization. So I have the editorial background. And now I'm working with our product team and try to connect the product team with the editorial staff in order for us to free some creative process, which again hopefully lead to both valuable content for the readers and new revenue streams. And in that sense, news automatization has become a main area of responsibility. And the real estate robot, somewhat of a baby of mine. And last month, I've also been working a lot with United Robots on developing what we've called the annual report robot, with some promising results, I think. So that's a quick intro to me.
Thank you. All right, there is a lot to go through, but maybe if we start at sort of a high level and talk about strategy. And if we take a closer look at the whys, could you elaborate a bit on what you see as the main value driver of content automation for your organization? Ingeborg, do you want to start on this one?
Sure, and I would say that speaking from a Norwegian financial publisher in possibly the most digitized state in the world, maybe aside from South Korea, where also the business community and the government is really highly digitized, it makes a lot of sense because a lot of the journalism we do every day is based on some form of data. There's stock market data, there's business data, there's like Jan Stian said, property data. There's so many data points that we sort of juggle every day, and most of the time, none of it is not important enough to merit a journalistic story. But once you automate it, it makes perfect sense that that piece of news that you don't find newsworthy enough to serve up to a large audience, all of a sudden is accessible to possibly, if you're able to put it in front of the right eyeballs, exactly those people who might find it interesting. And that for me is where the potential for automated reporting is so great. We kind of have to reconfigure the journalistic or editorial idea of what constitutes news and bring it down to the user level and say, what's newsworthy to you might be different from what's newsworthy to someone else. And in an ordinary journalistic operation, you are not in a position to sort of serve those different needs. But once you have a small little trained staff of robots, that's exactly what you're able to do. So without saying too much, that's the direction that we see financial reporting heading. And it also means that reporters get to do less boring stuff and more fun stuff. So it's a win-win kind of situation.
I guess the logic is a little bit the same for you, Peter, with the local. It's bringing it down to the user level.
Yeah, sure. And what Ingeborg just told is very true for us at Gota Media as well. It is. I'm thinking about one of our web editors that told me that she was so satisfied when she now has time to focus on more valuable things than write that very short, immediate story about that traffic accident. Now she can focus on maybe find out more information about what happened. She don't have to write the first lines herself. And that's one thing. And of course, what makes people in the newsrooms cheer is when the robot provide news that we didn't we maybe couldn't find before, as when a famous artist is selling our house in the neighborhood and so on. And of course, our readers find this content and they read it a lot. Real estate is a real success for our readers.
I guess that's true for you as well, Stian. The real estate has been a bit of a success for you.
Yeah, it has. We've been going for over a year now, and I would describe it as a major success. Actually, for me, it's I think Ingeborg and Peter sums it up very well. It's all about the main point, I think, is adding value to the subscribers, giving them content they otherwise wouldn't have gotten, because simply because Bergens Tidende is not capable of providing it by manual journalism. But there are some other interesting aspects as well. I think we are narrowing in on blind spots. We are covering the local real estate market more thoroughly than before, I think, and with the new automated business text, we also cover some businesses in our region which hasn't gotten the attention they perhaps should have got earlier. So and this of course is freeing up time for journalists to do more crucial and investigative work robots cannot do. So that's a win-win situation. There's also another dimension, I think, which is I think is particularly interesting for a local and a regional newspaper as Bergens Tidende is, and that is, I call it the see and be seen aspect. Most people never end up in the paper, but with the robots, that actually changed. We write about basically everybody, and people love to read about themselves or people they know, don't they? So that's a key aspect, I think, and will be even more so in the future when we get more and more stories about basically everybody.
Absolutely. Now, if you speak about strategy, I mean, of course, in the beginning, when we first launched, it was all about testing out a new interesting technology and what was possible. And now we see that people often have quite a clear idea when they come to us about what they want to do. I mean, how important do you think it is to have a clear strategy for what your goals are with the automation? Who wants to speak to that? Have you? Because I know, Stian, your strategy has changed since you started, you could say.
Yeah, well, it started with us just fooling around, to put it like that. It started in the newsroom, actually. We had a workshop of brainstorming how to innovate the real estate journalism, and came up with an idea in the automated direction. And then we contacted United Robots and built a fairly easy automated concept in the beginning. And as we have been going along, we've been have made it more and more complex and getting more and more attention for it. But we started out in the sense of it was fear of missing out, which led us to start investigating automated text, and then we have the strategy has become more and more clear for us as we have gone along. And I think you need to you can just start to get going, but you need to soon develop a strategy for why you are doing it. What are the audience you are targeting? How can you get to them? And why are you providing the text and the information you are providing? Because it's fairly easy to generate automated text. But the trick is to make it relevant and valuable to the readers, and that requires a firm strategy, I think.
Absolutely. I mean, the distribution is a very key point. But of course, to get to the distribution, you first have to actually buy into the content. And so let's focus a little bit on that, because I think there are a lot of questions in the industry about that. How unique are the texts, and how important is that they are unique? I know, Ingeborg, you said that this is a key question for you guys.
Well, it is a key question. Like I mentioned, we are just starting to dip our toes on that, and that fear of missing out comes in as well, because we are very aware as a sometime competitor, sometime collaborator with Stian and the people at Bergens Times. We are very aware that some of our readers might be the same, and the data might be the same. So how can we make sure that it has this DN sort of flair? Of course, we write much better. No, I'm just kidding. But we need to make sure that it has that sort of textual quality, as well as the angles and the headlines and the titles that make it stand out to our audience. And I think the uniqueness comes in. It's quite important, but it's not. I think probably within the newsrooms, we focus more on that than possibly the readers would do, because to them it's mostly, oh, that's interesting information, as long as it's fairly well written and understandable, and you figure out, oh, there's a reason why they are putting this stuff in front of me. But for us, trying to sort of differentiate ourselves in a competitive landscape with great competitors, we need to make sure that it feels on brand, and it needs to feel well written, and there needs to be a journalistic angle to it that says something more than this building was sold by someone.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And of course, that is all. Go on.
Yeah, and if I just can comment on that, because we put a lot of effort in combining the hyper-local with the more generic macro information, and that's where the uniqueness in the text lies, I think, and that is also one of the success criteria. You can read about one house and one sale, but you also can read about the development in the neighborhood, the municipality, the region, or even get some national information. So the combination of the hyperlocal, what's happening in my neighborhood and in my street, with more generic information, I think, is a success criteria.
We've had a question.
If I may say, yeah, when we have discussed this, we aren't expecting these texts to be masterpieces. We just expect them to do their job, provide valuable information. But of course, some text it needs more variation to be interesting. And of course, when talking about sports, for example, it's you can always find something to build the story around. And I say they're doing their job, and they're doing it good enough.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah. Absolutely. And you can always, if it's a special story, you send a reporter in the end.
Yeah.
We had a question from Katarina in Poland, who I've actually met. Hello, Katarina. She wonders, do the subscribers know which article was written by a machine? Do you get any feedback on that?
Yeah, they know we are very transparent. In the byline, it says automated text, and it's sports, real estate, and so on. So we don't pretend that it's something else. And we have had feedback regarding sports when they maybe think that the approach that the article robot has created in the article is maybe a bit wrong. It's the coach of the team who then phones or emails.
Yeah.
But not so much. I don't. As we mentioned earlier, our readers don't think about that as much as we do.
No, absolutely. there is a concern in the industry perhaps about reliability and trustworthiness. Are those issues in your experience? I know, Peter, you have a...
Well, I don't know if you realize
yeah.
that reporters make our reporters make errors every day. So yeah, of course, we want to make sure that it's reliable and trustworthy, and then you can correct any mistakes, and that you can sort of trace it back to the source of the error, which is the same thing you would do if a journalist makes a mistake. I will say that the one advantage is that you fix the problem once with a robot, and it changes all posterity, so they never make that same mistake again.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about how you guys implemented this, and getting buy-in internally can be a challenge, I know. What is your experience with that?
Yeah, we started out, as Jan Stian told, we have made the same journey. We started out with the curiosity, and we did some tests, and then we made a pause because I didn't get much buy-in actually. But then after a couple of months, we came back and started out, and then it was an initiative from the newsrooms. So it has evolved from that, and now it's a natural part of when we are creating new sites or niche products. The robot texts are a part of it. Has to be.
Yeah, and the editorial staff in Bergens, they are, I think they're realizing more and more that you can use the robot text as a tool or a platform for further investigation, and you can use the data to make your own stories, and you can be inspired by the robot text to dig deeper. So that has gotten some attention in the newsroom.
And I will say, in our experience, it really helps having competitors launch something first, because then you get that burning platform kind of feeling, that everyone else is doing it, so why aren't we? But in our experience as well, going at it from a sort of cross-departmental or even cross-publication, or part of a media group perspective, to say, where might this be of help that we are not doing anything today? It might vastly improve the performance of some niche site, and try and roll out a first project across a couple of brands, and not touching the most high-profile financial reporting. That's sort of the daily bread and butter of a financial newspaper, because if we get that wrong, you not only turn the audience against you, but you turn the newsroom against you. So sort of try and test it out on a sort of area of coverage or a niche where it's not as high a risk as some others might be. And I will say, finding those key people who are really curious about what might be possible in a year or two, and have them come into a project across journalists, developers, data journalists, has really been helpful too, because you, as you have the project rolling along, you also build ambassadors.
Absolutely.
Let me say as well, there was a fear of the robot leading to layoffs, and that has not been the case. Definitely not. Instead, we are actually right now hiring 25 new journalists. So
that's a lot for. And you're not a huge group.
No, no, we are not. It's 25 is a lot in our case.
Yeah, brilliant stuff. How complex was the initial deployment? Is this something you need a big IT project for, or?
No, speaking for Bergens Tidende, of course you need capable people, and you need people understanding what it's all about. But I would say it was surprisingly fast from when we first started to talking with you guys in United Robots to seeing the first text being published. And of course, it has been a journey after that as well. But this is not rocket science. This is fairly easy to do, I would say.
All right, we're getting close to the end, but of course, my final question that I would like to ask all of you is, of course, what advice would you give to publishers who have not yet dipped their toes in content automation? Ingeborg, do you want to start? What would be your top tip?
Probably two things. The one thing is where I started off, is realizing that what might be newsworthy to you and to your audience might be two very different things. And automation offers an opportunity to bring newsworthy items to more people more often. So to me, that's sort of the big, there's no reason why we shouldn't be looking into this. And I think building that coalition between developers, journalists, and qualified partners, so that people actually have some fun doing it. They make new relationships within your own company or across companies. So you make sure it's fun and low risk, but you keep an eye on not what you are able to do today, but what you think you will be able to do 2 years from now, because everyone else will be rushing ahead too.
Absolutely. Stian, what would be your advice?
Well, I think you should ask yourself some important control questions, I guess. First, how will the automated text provide relevance and value to the readers? You don't do it just to do it. You need to get that sorted out as soon as possible, I think. And another question will be, how will you be able to let the targeted audience find the information you think they would like? For us, we are now publishing hundreds of stories each day. We have, since starting last summer, we have published 15,000 articles. And you have to let the users find those stories. And of course, how can you monetize on the automated text? That's also a question. Subscription, just creating engagement, or other solutions. So that would be the 3 basic questions to answer, I think.
Can you give us a concrete result when you talk about goals? How many subscriptions have you sold?
We've sold about 1,000 subscriptions since starting, which is, by our standards, I would say quite substantial. Perhaps not overwhelming, but it's a lot, and it's more than I was hoping for when we got into this. And we just launched a new automated content type, the annual report robot, which also is, it's looking fairly good, I have to say. It also, for instance, yesterday, the 3rd most read article in Bergens Tidende was created by a robot. So that's rather cool, I think.
Very cool. Okay, Peter, over to you. Your top advice.
Yeah, I have one advice. It's get your metadata in order.
Good one. Yes, our developers will like to hear that.
Yeah.
Okay, are there any more questions from the audience? Not at the moment. I think we'll have to wrap it up there. So thank you so much for joining us. And as I said, if you want more information about United Robots, we're taking part in the demo session tomorrow at 11, or come by the booth. And finally, just a huge, huge thank you to my Scandinavian friends for turning up for us today.
Thank you.
Yes, everyone in the audience. Again, I just want to echo Cecilia's sentiments. Thank you, Peter, Ingeborg, and Janstein for sharing today your automated journalism journeys with us. If you have any questions, please visit Cecilia at her virtual booth. She'll be here the whole of DME, so you can get some one-on-one questions answered, get a demo, and learn more. And as we've seen from Peter at Gota Media, the robot is creating jobs, so there's no need to fear the robot. And 25 new journalists, big congrats, that's awesome. Now we are perfectly on time to segue into our next session, which is actually a very interactive one, very engaging, People's Choice for Best Digital Strategy of 2021. So see you at the next session, and thank you to all of our Scandinavian friends for joining us.
Bye.
Bye.